boy to the war is gone. In the ranks of death you will find him. His father's sword they have girded on, and the wild hop slung behind him. Lands of songs and the warrior bard, though all the world betrays thee, one sword at least I shall guard, one faithful heart shall praise thee. The minstrel fell, but the foreman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The heart he loved never spoke again, for he tore its cords asunder. And it said, no chain shall sully thee, though soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, they shall never sound in slavery. The minstrel boy to the war is gone, in the ranks of death you will find him. His father's sword they have girded on, and the wild hop slung behind him. A land of songs at the warrior bard, though all the world betrays thee, one sword at least I shall guard, one faithful hop shall praise thee.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming out to Westwood's 2018 Memorial Day observation. It's always great. We turn out such a great crowd. As we sit here on an overcast day, we're ordering a sunny day for next year, but I just want to remind everybody that last year I had Under Armour on from head to toe. It was freezing cold. So this is actually relatively nice. Before we start, I just want to welcome one of Westwood's Gold Star moms, Miss Christine Devlin. Her son Michael is one of the 241 U.S. troops that were killed in Beirut in 1983. And in fact, he was in the Marine barracks, he was in the Marine Corps, and the reason we're here is to honor, memorialize, and celebrate their lives. Later on, in a few minutes, when we listen to the reading of the Gettysburg Address, you'll hear the reference to the last great measure of devotion, and that is what Michael Devlin gave. So we thank Mrs. Devlin for being here with us today. We're going to start things off with a couple of Westwood Brownies, Molly Shea and Sarah Hutchinson, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right up here.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Molly and Sarah. And I'd now like to ask Reverend Jennifer Phillips to lead us in the invocation.
In the variety of our religious affiliations and beliefs, let us begin with a moment of thankful silence for those we remember on this day. Divine Protector, Spirit of comfort and strength, be with us in mercy and love as we remember all those who have given faithful service to our country, and especially those who have given their lives on our behalf. We pray, hold in your perfect light and love those who laid down their lives generously in military service. For the men and women lost in World War II, in the Korean War, in the Cold War, in Vietnam and Southeast Asia, in the Gulf, Iraq, and Afghanistan, in Syria, in defending against terrorism, those who guarded bases and embassies against attack, those lost at sea and in the air and in space, and those who died in service at home and abroad. Lift up in comfort all those who grieve for loved ones who have died in the armed services and those who have gone missing in action. Lend strength to all the families who bravely watch and wait. Keep vigil with those who still bear the outward or inward wounds of war. Give your mercy to those who carry burdens of conscience and troubled memory. Give peace to the souls of service people who have died by suicide, addiction, or accident. And gather into your everlasting arms all those who may die in service on this day. Guard and protect those now in the path of danger. Grant wisdom, courage, and restraint to all who bear authority under the pressure of peril. Receive our thanksgiving for medics and nurses, chaplains, counselors, and all those who have tended the souls and the bodies of those in service, those who saved lives, those who eased their dying, those who risked their own lives for others in war. And grant that we may never forget the ancestors upon whose shoulders we stand, the many whose brave, sacrificial, and faithful service built up the heritage of liberty we enjoy. These we remember and shall not forget. For these we give thanks. May wars cease and violence come to an end. May we become the peace we desire. In the name of the Holy One, we pray. Amen.
As a United States Marine, obviously, I love my hymn from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Now, if you serve the United States Army, you may know your hymn to be Caissons Go Rolling Along. They changed the word just a little bit. It's now called Army First to Fight, but the tune Caissons still the same. If you serve in the iconic United States Navy, your hymn has always been Anchors. Oh, come on now. Anchors. Outstanding. If you serve in the United States Air Force or Army Air Corps a long time ago, your hymn has always been Wild Blue. Outstanding. Now, in addition, there's a group of men and women who not only guard our shores, but they're deployed to combat venues all over the world. Their hymn is Semper Paratus. I'm talking about the United States Coast Guard. And then there is a group that was long forgotten until an act of Congress in 1988 ordered that they will also be recognized as veterans, the men and women of the United States Merchant Marines. They like to be called merchant mariners. For you see, they used to take our boys overseas, supplies, boots, bullets, bandages. Many times they were sunk by enemy submarines right off the coast of the continental United States. Well, they have a hymn also. It's called Heave Ho, My Lads, Heave Ho. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful Westwood Memorial Day, I would respectfully request that when I sing your hymn, if you have served, if you've had a family member who has served, if you've been married to a serviceman or servicewoman, please do me this favor. When I sing your hymn, put your paw in the air so I can properly recognize you, all right? The order of military hymns today is going to be the Merchant Marines, the Coast Guard, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and then, well, the United States Marine Corps. Here we go. Do I have any Merchant Marines on deck? Heave ho, my lads, heave ho. It's a long, long way to go. It's a long, long pull when the hatch is full, braving the wind, braving the sea, fighting a treacherous foe. Heave ho, my lads, heave ho. Though the seas blow high and low, we can cross any ocean, sail any river. Give us those goods and we'll deliver down the submarines. We're the men of the Merchant Marines. Coast Guard, where are you? Coast Guard. Outstanding. We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in thee. Through howling gale and shock and shell, to win a victory. Semper Paratus is our guide, a pledge and motto too. We're always ready to or die. Like Coast Guard, we fight for you. Army, first to fight for the right and to build a nation's might. And the army goes rolling along. A battle fall we have done, fight until the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. But it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Call up your Calen town and show, wait, oh, wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. Navy, anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Through our last night on shore, take to the fore until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home. Air Force, off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sun. Oh, jumping tide, sputter flames from under Pattenburg in the gun. Off we go, assuming to meet our thunder up in one hell of a roar. We live in fame, or down in flame. Nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force, United States Marine Corps. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, oh, we will fight our country's battle in the air, on land, and the sea. Oh, first to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. Oh, we are proud to claim the title of United States Marine.
Dan, great job. That is always a pleasure to listen to. As a Navy submariner, I used to think Anchors Aweigh was my favorite, but the reality is they're all terrific, and you do them great justice. I'd now like to introduce Madeline Peck to recite for us the Gettysburg Address.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. For the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember, what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause, for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Here the Westwood High School and middle school bands led by Allison Sanders playing 3 patriotic pieces. And now I'd like to introduce Senator Michael Rush, who will give us a few words today.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning. It is my highest honor to join you this morning, a day where all Americans are tasked to be mindful of those brave and heroic individuals who have paid the ultimate sacrifice by giving their lives for this country, and also to thank and honor their family members left behind. I would especially like to offer my sincere thanks to the organizers of this outstanding event. Thank you to Chris McCune for always making this so special, Westwood Fire and Police, Westwood American Legion, all of our scouts and students, and a very, very special acknowledgement to our Gold Star families, and specifically Christine Devlin is over here to my left, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge her and thank her for her sacrifice. And also the outstanding elected officials who work tirelessly to ensure the veterans of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, their families, and our Gold Star families received the very best benefits in the nation. Representative Paul McMurtry working tirelessly at the State House to ensure our veterans and their families are getting phenomenal benefits. And here in the town of Westwood, your select board, Selectmen Hyde, Walsh, and Hickey, work tirelessly to protect and work on behalf of the veterans here in the town of Westwood. So thank you so much for all that you do each and every day. A letter from Sunday, January 4th, 2004, Fallujah. New Year's Day was very busy for me. It started at 5 a.m. and went on for hours. Mission after mission, I had 8 patients that day. I lost one of them, but there was no helping him when I got to him. That was sad, but we all must move on. It's sad to think that I can see that and then just go to lunch like it never happened. I'll always remember that soldier, though. Most guys don't like it because you see a lot of gory stuff, but I see it as training for the future. I've been thinking about my future a lot. Who knows what's going to happen, right? This is an excerpt from a letter and email message to the family of Sergeant Michael A. DiRamondo, 22, of Simi Valley, California. Sergeant DiRamondo, who planned to be a paramedic firefighter, was killed just 4 days later on January 8th when his helicopter was shot down on a medical evacuation mission. For it is this letter and thousands of letters like them that profoundly touch on both the significance and the importance of why we as a community, we as a nation, recognize Memorial Day. It is to honor our nation's dead, for they died in service to the United States in the belief in liberty and democracy for all mankind, all humankind. As we continue to go about our daily business today, please do not forget that we are a nation at war. Be mindful. There are soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen standing watch at this very moment around the globe, ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice if needed for each and every one of us, much like that brave Army sergeant did in Iraq, and thousands before him. On Memorial Day, we should be reminded of the words spoken by Congressman James Garfield, himself a major general in the Civil War, who went on to become President of the United States, giving the very first Memorial Day address in 1868 to a group of 5,000 individuals at Arlington National Cemetery. Congressman Garfield said, "I am oppressed with a sense of the impropriety of uttering words on this occasion. If silence is ever golden, it must be here beside the graves of 15,000 men whose lives were more significant than speech and whose death was a poem, the music of which will never be sung. With words we make promises, plight faith, praise virtue. Promises may not be kept. Plighted faith may be broken. And vaunted virtue be only the cunning mask of vice. We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke. But we do know that they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtue of men and citizens. For the love of country, they accepted death and thus resolved all doubt and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue. Garfield's comments hold true today and every day. There are ceremonies being held like this great ceremony all across our Commonwealth and our nation to honor and thank those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Let's make sure that their sacrifice and their service is honored, remembered, and respected. Please take time today to observe the national moment of silence at 3 p.m. by taking a minute and encouraging others as well to honor Memorial Day and our nation's fallen, and as a grateful nation to thank our Gold Star families. We have the tremendous opportunity as a community, as a Commonwealth, and as a nation to ensure that the war dead have never died in vain by ensuring that today and each and every day is in fact Memorial Day. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Senator Rush. I'd now like to introduce Representative Paul McMurtry.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. As state representative, I'm deeply humbled and honored to join you as we commemorate the sacrifices of those military women and men who have laid down their lives in service to our nation. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge those who have lost a friend or a loved one in the line of duty to our country, especially our Gold Star families and our Gold Star mom, Christine Devlin. Your personal loss is our collective loss. I'd like to also acknowledge and thank all the veterans organizations and VSO, Chris McEwen, and my many colleagues in government, including Navy Lieutenant Commander Senator Michael Rush, and the members of the Board of Selectmen, Father Lenahan, and all who have made this ceremony possible. Today, as we do each and every Memorial Day, we come together as a caring community to honor and reflect on the women and men who bravely risked life and limb in the face of grave danger. We remember those who left the comforts of home to fight for us and defend and preserve our freedom, but never returned. We honor them, we thank them, and may we never forget them. Today is not to be confused with Veterans Day. Today we solemnly pause, assemble as a grateful community and as an indebted nation to honor military service members who died fighting in war. Across this great home of the free, as American flags, the symbol of our nation, are placed at the graves of fallen heroes, as 21 gun salutes are fired from sea to shining sea, as wreaths are deservingly placed on soldiers' monuments, as a sound of taps echoes in the distance, and as students publicly recite the poem In Flanders Field, and while many adorn poppies, a symbol of death and war, on their lapels, we take time to stop and remember out of respect and gratitude. Because of their ultimate sacrifice, we are a stronger community, a better Commonwealth, and an even greater nation. In closing, I share this poem titled To Them We Owe, published by Don Nilsson, which reads, happened today and in the past, sacrifice made for ours to last. Wives to widows, families torn, gave their lives, for them we mourn. Gone forever, souls are lost, freedom comes with this cost. Enjoy the life they did preserve, fate they suffered, did not deserve. On this day, lest we forget, to them we owe our life in debt. God bless each of you, God bless the town of Westwood, and may God bless our fallen heroes.
Thank you, Representative McMurtry. I'd now like to introduce the incoming board chairman, Michael Walsh.
Good morning. On behalf of all of our honored guests, Senator Rush, Representative Paul McMurtry, my fellow Board of Selectmen, and most importantly, our former military personnel, friends, family members, ladies and gentlemen, and to all of the children that joined us this morning. We gather here this morning to remember all of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And we do this because our first duty is to remember. Today I want to do that. I want to remember. I especially want to remember Lance Corporal Michael J. Devlin. His mother, Christine, who you've heard from several times, is a Gold Star mother who has joined us every year since the ceremony began. Mrs. Devlin, please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, I want a nice warm Westwood welcome. This year, on October 23rd, it will be 35 years since Michael was taken from us. Michael was born on July 17, 1962, just 2 months after my birthday. Michael would be 56 this July, but on October 23rd, 1983, Michael was taken from us along with 240 of our best. Michael was 21 when he died. He studied at UMass and then joined the military to help pay his student loans. At the time of this horrific event, he was only 3 weeks away from being discharged from duty. As fate would have it, Michael, who usually slept in a self-made bunker that was 10 by 4 and 4 feet deep, was granted special permission to sleep in the barracks that terrible night. On that day at 6:22 a.m. in the morning, Michael, along with 219 other U.S. Marines, 3 soldiers, and 18 sailors, died when a truck filled with 6 tons of explosives crashed into the Marine barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. Michael and all the U.S. military were there, or so they thought, on a peace mission. This attack was the deadliest since Iwo Jima. As someone who has lost a child myself, I understand the pain and the heartache felt by Christine, his mom. All parents who've ever lost a child struggle, no matter what the circumstance. Some never recover from this terrible fate. However, Christine refused to let people forget. While she has told others that she found closure and solace in knowing that Michael died what he loved, serving the red, white, and blue, she did not stop there. Christine, through her efforts and with the help of others, memorialized all of those who were taken from us on October 23rd, 1983. The Massachusetts Beirut Memorial is located at the edge of Boston's North End in Christopher Columbus Park. It's a place that will forever memorialize all 9 Massachusetts soldiers who perished on that day. It's a circular memorial made of granite with 9 beautiful dogwood trees, 9 stars, and the names of each of those that died. So I ask everyone who visits Boston this year to visit that memorial, to offer a prayer or a moment of silence, to help you and everyone remember that our first duty is to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the red, white, and blue. Lance Corporal Michael J. Devlin Square stands in front of the School Street Playground here in Westwood. And now when you see that marker and those flags, you will remember this U.S. Marine who gave his ultimate sacrifice. May God bless our troops wherever they may be. May He keep them safe and bring them home to their families every day, but especially on this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman Walsh. I'd now like to introduce our Grand Marshal this year. Chris Rogers grew up in Islington. He went to Westwood High School and graduated in 2009. He joined the Army and deployed to Afghanistan in 2011. He was a combat engineer, and what that means is he was active in dealing with roadside bombs and deactivating them. It's a task I don't think anybody would really want to do, but Chris did it with great courage. He got out of the Army and went to Mass Bay Community College. He was very active in veterans groups. He then transferred to Framingham State College. He recently accepted a position or a spot in the Boston Fire Academy. He's graduating in July and will join the Boston Fire Department as a fireman and EMT. Chris is not the only member of his family that served our country with distinction. His brother and sister both served in the Air Force. His younger brother, John, is in the ROTC program at Cornell this fall, and he's got a long legacy of service to our country. So with that, please give a warm welcome to Chris Rogers, our Grand Marshal.
Good morning. I'd like to state just to start that it's an absolute honor to be here, and I'm absolutely moved by the speeches that have been presented before us and honoring everybody that has passed away and what this day is truly about. I'd like to thank the town of Westwood's Parade Committee for having me be this year's Grand Marshal. It is a great honor, especially to represent the United States Army for this event. As an Afghan war veteran, I understand the importance of today. This is a day to remember and a day to honor. On this Memorial Day, we remember all the servicemen and women who gave their lives for this country's freedom and unity. The United States from our founding has fought over 70 wars and conflicts, sacrificing the lives of over 1 million servicemen and women to preserve our way of life and our democracy that we enjoy to this day. We tend as a nation to remember just the major wars and conflicts that Americans have died in. The Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War II, Vietnam, and the Gulf Wars. Today we should remember some of the forgotten wars. The War of 1812, the Spanish-American War, the Boxer Rebellion in China, World War I, the Korean War, Grenada, Panama, and Somalia, just to name a few. We also must remember not just the servicemen and women who died in action, but the tens of thousands of servicemen and women who are also missing in action. That we will never forget you, and that you will always be in the back of my mind and the minds of many other Americans who have served and our civilians as well. Today is a day we reflect on what a wonderful free nation we have, our prosperity, our democracy, our health. Reflecting on these would not be possible without the great sacrifices of all our fallen servicemen and women who gave so much for our country. God bless our armed forces and all those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. Thank you all, and it is a great honor to be here today.
Chris, thank you very much. For our last speaker is Richard Pastor, the commander of American Legion Post 320, who will read General Logan's order. But I want to tell you the sort of sequence of events. Commander Pastor will read General Logan's order. We'll then have a moment of silence to consider all the things that have been put out to us today to remember and really think about. Dan Clark will lead us in a song, and the Girl Scouts and Brownies will then scatter off and actually decorate some of the graves, which is part of General Logan's order. So Dick, if you would.
Thank you, Chris. Before I begin, I would like to thank all of the volunteers who, over this past week, assisted with refreshing all of the veterans' flags on their graves and who planted flowers. There were a lot of scouts out here, and I want to thank them all and their parents for assisting us. More than 1 million soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, and Marines have had their lives cut short while fighting in wars since the American Revolution. Regardless of the place of the war fought, the purity of their sacrifices without question. Young men and women lost their lives in order to make freedom of others possible. It is us, therefore, Americans gathered in a free society, united with the common purpose of honoring our departed comrades, that brings us here today. We are their legacy. The heroes we remember today are not exclusive to any gender, race, or religion. They are a diverse group wedded to the common principle that America is a nation worth dying for. Not all of our comrades died because of enemy gunfire. Military service is dangerous, even when its service members are far from a combat zone. We remember these service members today as well. As we observe Memorial Day every year, we must remember that the families of the departed remember their loved ones every day. Children without parents, Gold Star mothers and fathers, spouses and siblings, they no doubt still hear the voices of those they have lost. We also extend our gratitude and support to a group that nobody wants to join, but have already given their country so much, the Gold Star families, and of course we've heard about our Gold Star mother, Chris Devlin, and her son, Michael. It is up to us to hear the voices of these families, offer our support, and express our highest gratitude. Whether the people we remember served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the war on terrorism, or any other place or time in between, we say thank you for the freedom they have given us. We are here because of them, and we are here today to remind us that freedom is not free. God bless our fallen comrades, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here today, participating in our ceremony. General Logan, a Civil War general, became the national commander of the then Veterans Organization called the Grand Army of the Republic. His order was written on May 5th, 1868, and addressed to its members about the Civil War people who died in battle. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foe. Their soldier lives were the reveille of freedom to a race in chains, and their death a tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten, as a people, the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull and other hands slack, and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain in us. Let us then, at the appointed time, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those who they have left among us as sacred charges upon the nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope it will be kept up from year to year while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all part of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective by order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief. If we could all please observe a moment of silence. Thank you.
Strong to save, for some hath bound the rest. all Marines, both night and day, their courage, honor, strength, and skill, their land to serve, thy law fulfill. Be thou the shield forevermore from every peril to the core. Amen.
Thank you again, Dan, and thank you to all the Girl Scouts and Brownies that helped decorate the veterans' graves. Now, if you please enjoy taps.
Look ahead, Tim. Up. Reset. There.
That was played by Charles Resker of the Boy Scout Troop 11, and I marvel when these young kids can play that. That's a very difficult song to play. We'll now have the national anthem, Salute to the Dead, led by the Westwood Middle School Band, followed by a volley from the American Legion. So I just want people to be prepared for that. I'd really like to thank the high school and middle school bands for playing here today. I always enjoy that quite a bit, and I appreciate you coming out today to do that. Let's have a big round of applause. So We'll have the benediction by Reverend Jennifer Phillips, and then Ed McCarthy, Westwood's own Ed McCarthy, will play Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, and then we'll sort of form up and walk back to Town Hall. Before that, though, I just want to acknowledge one of the reasons we have such a great turnout and such a great ceremony is that our Board of Selectmen truly supports the veterans, the Memorial Day observance, and there's a bunch of other groups in town as well. The police department, the fire department, the DPW, the schools. It's really sort of invasive in a good way. And I want to acknowledge we're fortunate to have that in our town. My name was mentioned by a few speakers, but I assure you the heavy lifting is done by Dottie Powers and Mary Ann Carty and Harry Aaron and Paul Sicard and Chief Decker and Brendan Ryan at the DPW. I just get to stand here and actually enjoy thoroughly speaking. So a big round of applause for all of them. Reverend Phillips.
I preface the benediction with some words of Fred Rogers, that great teacher of children and all of us. We gather as those who sense that part of us that knows that life is far more than anything we can ever see, hear, or touch. That deep part of us that allows us to stand for those things without which humankind cannot survive. Love that conquers hate, peace that rises triumphant over war, and justice that proves more powerful than greed. So may the divine love, peace, and justice stir us all to be brave to serve, to be faithful in remembering, and the blessing of the Holy One be with us all now and evermore. Amen.
And while Ed pipes up, I would just like to remind everyone we have a big town meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Hope to see you all there in further support of our great democracy. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.